The stars vanished. From every observation deck and orbital station around Earth, the sky turned black as a colossal silhouette moved into position. The alien ship was not a vessel. It was a continent of steel, a floating fortress blotting out the constellations. Its hull shimmered like oil under moonlight, with veins of molten red running along its edges. No warning, no negotiation, just presence. Then the voice came. It bypassed every frequency, hijacked every broadcast, and seeped into every corner of human civilization. Kneel or burn. The voice was deep and resonant, inhumanly precise, carrying a quiet certainty that resistance was not an option. Billions froze at their screens, their hearts sinking under the weight of those 3 words. In the heart of New Geneva, inside the United Nations spire, a tower of glass and silver rising above the lake, Ambassador Elias Kane watched the transmission in silence. Around him, the council chamber erupted in panic. Ministers shouted over one another, their voices sharp with fear. "They'll destroy us in hours," cried Chancellor Lorry. "We can't fight that. Look at the size of that thing." "Tribute is survival," snapped Governor Renwick. "We give them whatever they want, minerals, technology, labor. Humanity isn't ready for this war." Kane rose from his seat. The room stilled, as if his movement alone carried gravity. At 42, he looked worn by the years, a man carved by battles both political and real. His dark suit bore no medals, but his presence spoke of iron resolve. "They're testing us," Kane said, his voice low but cutting through the tension. "This is the same empire that's enslaved species older than our entire civilization. They don't want tribute. They want us to bend, to accept that we're beneath them. The moment we submit, we're finished." Renwick sneered. "And what do you propose? That we stand here, pounding our chests, while they turn Earth into ash?" Kane's eyes locked with his. "I propose that we act like humans." The chamber fell silent. A hologram shimmered in the center of the table. An incoming call. The alien signal pulsed, translating itself into human-readable form. The council hesitated, but Kane gestured to accept. A towering figure appeared in ghostly red light. Zirith Vexus, overlord of the Verixian Outer Fleet. His armor gleamed like obsidian, etched with symbols that flickered faintly, as if alive. His face was narrow, predatory, features like carved bone, with dark eyes that radiated disdain. "Primitive leaders of Earth," Zirith began, his voice as cold as metal scraping over stone. "You stand on the edge of extinction. The Verixian Empire claims the sector. To live, you will send tribute. Every resource your world can harvest. You will send labor, weapons, flesh. If you resist, your world will burn, and your name will be forgotten." The council members shifted uneasily, some visibly trembling. Kane stepped forward, placing himself squarely in the center of the hologram's field. "And if we refuse?" he asked. The alien tilted his head slightly, as if surprised by the question. "Refusal is the language of the dead. You are nothing to the Empire. You are dust beneath our talons. Do not mistake our offer for mercy. It is generosity." Kane smiled faintly, a sharp and deliberate gesture. "Generosity," he repeated. "That's one word for it. But here's another, extortion. And humanity has a bad habit of reacting poorly to threats." Zirith's gaze hardened. "You think your kind matters? Your species is young, reckless, unproven. The Empire has consumed civilizations that were carving star paths while your ancestors were still grubbing in the dirt." Kane leaned in slightly. "And yet here we are, standing before you. We climbed from that dirt with bare hands. And in a blink of your Empire's timeline, we've crossed the void. We fought every battle the universe has thrown at us, against famine, against our own nature, and we've survived. We don't kneel. Not to you, not to anyone." The alien's armor glowed brighter, his anger visible in every flicker. "Then you will die." The hologram cut out, leaving the chamber bathed in the dim blue light of the display screens. For a long moment, no one spoke. Lorry broke the silence, voice trembling. "Kane, you've just doomed us. Do you understand what you've done?" Kane turned to face the council, his posture rigid but calm. "I've told them the truth. We kneel now, and we're slaves forever. We fight, and maybe, just maybe, we prove them wrong. Humanity has a chance to stand, and I will not be the man who bows." He stepped toward the table, placing both hands on its surface. "You all know me. I've sat in these rooms for decades. I've fought wars you've only read about. And I can tell you this. Empires fall. Every single one. Not by the size of their fleets, but by underestimating the will of those they think beneath them." A murmur rippled through the council. Even those who feared the alien juggernaut couldn't deny the fire in Kane's words. Renwick leaned forward. "You're proposing war." Kane met his gaze without blinking. "We're already at war. They just haven't realized we're not prey." He turned, his voice now carrying across the chamber like a drumbeat. "We have resources. We have fleets. And most importantly, we have a species that refuses to die quietly. I'm not asking for blind courage. I'm asking for unity. Because if we splinter now, if we cave, then we've already lost." A silence hung in the air, heavy and unbroken. Finally, Admiral Celeste Reese, head of the United Earth Fleet, rose from her seat. "If this is war, then we need a strategy. We'll need every ship, every soldier, every ounce of ingenuity we can muster." Kane's lips curved into something between a smile and a grimace. "Then let's start planning. The Varixians think they've seen war. Let's show them what humanity can do when cornered." The council, shaken but resolute, began murmuring agreement. The fear remained, but was no longer paralyzing. It had been tempered into something sharper. Kane glanced at the still-fading hologram of the alien ship, blotting out the stars, his expression unreadable. "They wanted tribute," he murmured. "They'll get it, just not the kind they expect." The war room of the United Earth Fleet was buried 3 kilometers beneath the Atlantic Ocean, a labyrinth of steel corridors and reinforced chambers. The air was cold, laced with the faint hum of servers and the distant thrum of fusion reactors. Ambassador Elias Kane stood before a panoramic holographic map of the Orion expanse, his reflection flickering among the projected stars. Admiral Celeste Reese entered with a crisp stride, her dark uniform immaculate, the silver insignia on her chest glinting under the fluorescent lights. Her face, sharp and angular, bore the calm intensity of someone who had commanded fleets through the void and survived. "They've begun probing our outer colonies," she said without preamble. 3 listening posts went dark in the last 20 hours. No survivors. No debris. Just silence. Kane's gaze didn't shift from the map. "Testing our response time," he murmured, "measuring how much fear they can generate before we break." "They're not going to wait long," Reese replied. "The Varixian fleet we tracked near Tau Ceti is moving closer. At their current velocity, they'll be on our doorstep within 6 days." Kane finally turned to face her. 6 days isn't enough to build an army." "No," Reese said, "but it's enough to plan how we bleed them." Kane's lips tightened. "I assume you've been running scenarios." Reese tapped the holographic table, pulling up a swarm of glowing red icons representing Varixian warships. They dwarfed the blue specks of human vessels scattered across the map. Their ships are faster, better shielded, and armed with weapons we barely understand. But they're predictable. They rely on brute force. They expect us to fight by their rules. Kane leaned closer. "Then we don't give them that satisfaction." Reese smirked faintly. "I thought you'd say that." The councils divide. Later that evening, Kane stood before a smaller, secure gathering of human leaders. The chamber's walls were lined with hollow displays showing colonies across the system: Mars, Europa, Titan, and dozens of orbital stations, each with leaders dialing in via encrypted link. Fear was written on every face. Ambassador Kane, Governor Renwick began sharply, his tone still laced with resentment from the earlier confrontation. "You speak of defiance as though it's a rallying cry, but what you're really doing is inviting annihilation. We don't have the firepower to resist. 1 ship of theirs can level a city. We can't win." Kane's response was calm but edged with steel. "You're right. We can't win by playing defense. But victory doesn't always mean destruction of the enemy. Sometimes it means survival, making the cost of conquering us higher than they're willing to pay." "Survival?" Renwick's voice cracked with disbelief. "What do you think we are? Gorillas in the jungle? This isn't the 20th century. Kane. This is a Virixian empire. They've dominated the stars for millennia. Empires rot, Kane replied evenly, and they crumble when someone refuses to bow. You want to give them tribute? They'll take it and come back for more. Every year, every generation. We won't be a species anymore. We'll be livestock. Admiral Reese cut in, her voice precise. I've analyzed our fleets. We can't match their numbers, but we can outthink them. We can strike where they don't expect it, use our smaller size and maneuverability as an advantage, and we'll have Kane's tactics guiding us. We've both seen how he plays the long game. Renwick scoffed. Tactics? Against a fleet that can burn our planets in hours? Kane's gaze fixed on him. If they want tribute, we'll give them fire. We'll burn their arrogance. And I don't care how ancient they are. No empire is invincible when you hit it where it's weak. The message. The room settled after long, tense silence. Kane's mind was already 3 steps ahead. He turned to Reese. Prepare a signal. I want a message sent directly to Overlord Zereth. Reese raised an eyebrow. A declaration? A challenge, Kane said. Let him know we're not afraid. Fear is his weapon. We take it away and we turn the game. Minutes later, Kane stood before a holocron, its lens glowing faint blue. He took a breath, his tone calm but deliberate, as if each word was a blade cutting through the quiet. Zereth Vexus, he said, his voice steady. You told us to kneel. Humanity does not kneel. You say we are nothing. Then remember this. The smallest ember can burn down a forest. You may come for us, but you'll find we don't fight to survive. We fight to win. He paused, his eyes like steel. We will not send tribute. We will send defiance. And we will make the galaxy remember our name. The message was transmitted across the stars. Zereth's reply. Hours later, as Kane prepared to leave, the alien response arrived. The hologram of Zereth filled the chamber. His expression a mass of controlled rage. You are insects, Zereth hissed. You crawl beneath the stars, and you dare defy the talons of the Empire? Very well. Your defiance will be carved into your bones as they float in the void. We will burn your world until it sees boil. Kane's lips curved into a faint, cold smile. Then you'll learn something new about humans. We bite back. The hologram dissolved, leaving the room in heavy silence. The spark. In the hours that followed, orders went out across the system. Warships were recalled from patrol routes. Civilian fleets were refitted with improvised weapons. Colonists were evacuated from vulnerable outposts. The hum of industry roared in orbital shipyards, turning fear into steel. Kane and Reese stood together on the observation deck above Fleet Command, watching the preparation unfold. Think they're ready? Reese asked. No, Kane said honestly. No one's ever ready for war like this. But fear doesn't build victory. Resolve does. Reese glanced at him. You sound like you've already made peace with dying. Kane shook his head slowly. No, I've made peace with fighting. There's a difference. She gave him a rare smile. Good, because when this starts, there won't be room for hesitation. Kane looked out at the dark ocean of stars, where the shadow of the alien fleet still loomed like a storm on the horizon. His voice was low but unshakable. They came for tribute. We'll give them more. And when the dust clears, they'll understand what it means to challenge humanity. The shuttle trembled as it cut through the void. A narrow blade of steel dwarfed by the alien colossus it approached. The Virixian flagship loomed ahead, a city-sized leviathan forged from black alloy and pulsing veins of crimson light. Its hull radiated a quiet menace, as though it were alive, watching. Ambassador Elias Kane stood near the viewport, hands clasped behind his back. The silence of deep space pressed against the glass, broken only by the low hum of engines. He had argued against this face-to-face meeting with Overlord Zereth, but strategy demanded risk. Humanity needed time, and Kane was the only one willing to buy it with words. Are you certain about this? Admiral Celeste Reese's voice crackled over the comms from her command ship. You're walking into their nest. They'll see you as prey the moment you step aboard. Kane's tone was steady. Then I'll make sure they choke on the idea before they act on it. Hold your fleet on standby. If this goes wrong, you'll know. A pause. Understood, Reese replied, though her voice carried the weight of unspoken concern. The flagship, the shuttle docked with metallic clang, swallowed by the Virixian docking bay. The atmosphere shifted instantly, thicker, metallic, almost tasting of ash. A group of Virixian guards awaited, towering beings clad in black armor etched with glowing runes. Their weapons, resembling spears of dark crystal, crackled faintly with contained energy. Kane walked forward with measured steps, refusing to let fear creep into his expression. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, but he buried it under layers of resolve. The guard said nothing, merely flanking him as they led him through towering corridors that twisted in strange, organic patterns. The walls pulsed with dim light, as if the ship itself was breathing. Kane studied every detail, committing it to memory, weaknesses, structural seams, patterns in their technology. Finally, the doors parted, revealing the throne chamber. Overlord Zira stood at its center, encased in black and gold armor that seemed to drink the light. Behind him, a massive window revealed the endless stars, Earth barely visible as a pale blue spark in the distance. "You return, insect," Zira said, his voice echoing to the chamber like thunder. "Have you come to beg?" Kane's gaze was steady. "I've come to talk. Begging isn't something humans do well." The duel of words. Zira tilted his head slightly, studying him with a predatory intensity. "You stand before a force that has crushed empires older than your sun. You bring no armies, no tribute, nothing but your fragile arrogance. Why should I let you live?" "Because you've already underestimated us," Kane said evenly, "and killing me now would prove I'm right." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "You think of us as primitive," Kane continued, taking a deliberate step closer. "But we've survived every threat by doing what others won't. We adapt. We outthink. We fight with everything we have, even when the odds are impossible. You see weakness, but what you're really looking at is unpredictability, and unpredictability wins wars." A low, rumbling sound escaped Ziritha's throat, laughter, harsh and cold. "You believe your chaos is strength? You are a flicker of light in an endless void. When I crush your world, no one will remember you ever existed." Kane's lips curved into a thin, calculated smile. "Then you'd better crush fast. Because every second you waste here, every conversation we have, gives humanity another chance to prepare. You've ruled so long you've forgotten how dangerous a cornered opponent can be." Ziritha's armor flared faintly with energy, a warning pulse. "You seek to delay me with words? Pathetic. Your species has days left, nothing more. When my fleet arrives, your oceans will boil and your cities will melt into glass." Kane met his gaze, unflinching. "Then I'll make sure you bleed for every step you take." The countdown. The meeting stretched for over an hour, filled with veiled threats and barbed exchanges. Kane carefully threaded each response, planting seeds of doubt in Ziritha's mind about humanity's plans. He hinted at weapons they didn't yet have, strategies they might deploy, alliances he implied were waiting beyond human space. Every word was a bluff, but it was delivered with the weight of absolute conviction. Finally, Zirith waved his hand dismissively. "Enough. You have 72 hours to submit. I will not ask again." Kane's tone was ice. "Then you'll get your answer in 72 hours. The guards escorted him back to the shuttle. As the docking doors closed behind him, Kane released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Back to humanity's edge. The return journey was silent, but Kane's mind burned with thoughts. Ziritha's arrogance was palpable, but beneath it, Kane sensed something else. An empire so used to submission that it couldn't comprehend true resistance. That blindness was their weakness. When the shuttle docked with the human flagship Resolute, Admiral Reese was waiting. "You look like hell," she said bluntly. Kane gave a tired smile. "You should see the other guy." "Did it work?" Kane nodded. "He's overconfident. He thinks we're scrambling, desperate. That gives us room to act. We got 72 hours to make them regret underestimating us." Reese crossed her arms. "We'll need every ship ready. I've already recalled the Titan fleet and rerouted supply lines, but we're outnumbered 10 to 1. "Good," Kane said, That means they'll never see what's coming. The sabotage plan. In the war room, Kane laid out his ideas. We can't fight them head-on. We have to hit their weaknesses: communication, logistics, command hierarchy. I saw how their ships operate. They rely on centralized control. If we disrupt that, even for a few minutes, we create chaos. Reese studied the data feeds. You're talking about electronic warfare, but our tech is primitive compared to theirs. Primitive, Kane echoed, is just another word for unconventional. We don't need to match them. We just need to throw them off balance. Think like gorillas in the void. Reese smirked faintly. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Not the situation, Kane said, but I enjoy proving tyrants wrong. A promise in the dark. Later, Kane stood alone at the observation deck, watching Earth turn slowly below. The planet looked fragile, its thin blue-shelled atmosphere a whisper against the void. Yet it held billions of voices, lives, and dreams. He clenched his fists, his reflection cold in the glass. They think we're nothing, he whispered. They'll learn what humanity becomes when cornered. Admiral Reese joined him quietly. We have 72 hours, she said. Kane nodded. Then we make them count. The countdown had begun. Every second pulsed like a drumbeat through Fleet Command, a rhythm of urgency that no one could ignore. Earth's orbital shipyards blazed with light as welders sealed new hull plates. Technicians rushed to arm freighters with improvised railguns, and the low roar of engines echoed across every hangar. Ambassador Elias Kane strode to the chaos of the command deck aboard the Resolute, the flagship of Admiral Celeste Reese fleet. Screens flashed with tactical data, updates streaming in from every corner of human-controlled space. His face was pale from sleepless hours, but his movements were sharp and deliberate. Status? Kane asked, stepping beside Reese at the central holodable. She didn't look up, her eyes locked on the floating projection of the Virixian fleet's trajectory. 70 ships confirmed inbound. Their forward scouts hit the Kepler outpost 6 hours ago. No survivors. Our response fleet is en route, but... Her voice trailed off. But they're not enough, Kane finished grimly. Reese's jaw tightened. Not for a straight fight. But you said it yourself, we don't fight straight. The trap? Kane studied the map. Their arrogance is predictable. They'll expect us to hold the line near Mars, where our primary defenses are visible. Instead, we'll bait them. I want the Resolute to draw them in while our secondary units circle behind their formation. Reese raised an eyebrow. That's suicide if they catch on. Then we make sure they don't, Kane replied. We'll use decoy signatures, fake heat trails, false sensor echoes. I want them chasing ghosts. Reese turned to her officers. Deploy the satellites. Mask our fleet movements. I want every system out there feeding them lies. The officers moved with precision born of desperation. Kane watched them work, feeling both pride and a deep, gnawing tension. These were not soldiers hardened by centuries of war. These were engineers, miners, and traders turned fighters because they had no choice. Yet their eyes carried no fear, only resolve. The broadcast. Hours later, Kane stood before a live feed that would reach every colony and ship. He adjusted his jacket, his expression steady but fierce. This is Elias Kane, he began, his voice carrying like steel over a blade. The Virixian Empire believes we will kneel. They think we'll give them our worlds, our resources, our lives. They are wrong. Every ship we launch, every defense we build, every action we take, this is our answer. He paused, letting the silence linger. They will come with fire. So will we. But ours will burn hotter, because it's forged from something they don't understand. Our will to survive. The feed cut, and Kane turned to Reese. Send it to them. 2. Let Xerath hear it. The first clash. The Virixian scouts arrived without ceremony. Sleek black frigates sliding out of the void like blades. Their hulls glimmered with alien sigils, their movements precise and predatory. The human fleet met them beyond the orbit of Mars. Engage on my mark, Reese ordered, her voice calm over the comms. Hold until they commit. On the holoscreens, Kane watched his human ship scattered across the dark expanse, weaving among asteroids and debris fields. They looked fragile compared to the Varixian vessels, but they moved with unpredictability, darting, feinting, striking where the enemy least expected. "Now!" Reese commanded. The void erupted in fire. Railgun slugs, plasma bursts, and kinetic projectiles cut across the black. A Varixian scout ship exploded under a hail of concentrated fire, its sleek frame shattering into glowing shards. The cheers on the command deck were brief but fierce. Kane's jaw clenched. "Keep moving. Don't let them fix on us." "They won't," Reese said, eyes locked on displays. "Not if we keep them guessing." The unconventional strike. Human ingenuity came alive in the chaos. Mining ships flung modified asteroids at enemy vessels using gravitic slingshots. Freighters packed with volatile fuel were remotely detonated, creating blinding shock waves that scrambled Varixian sensors. One tactical officer grinned as another alien ship was torn apart. "They're confused, Admiral. They're reading phantom signals all over the grid." Kane leaned over the console. "Good. Make them chase shadows. The more they second-guess, the slower they strike. The price of defiance." But victory had its cost. A human destroyer took a direct hit, its hull cracking open in a silent blossom of fire. The crew's last transmission was a single word: "For Earth." Kane's throat tightened, but he didn't flinch. "Mark their sacrifice," he said quietly. "It won't be in vain." Reese's hands tightened on the console. They knew what they signed up for, and they gave us the time we needed. Zirith responds. The next transmission came unbidden. Zirith's hologram towered over the deck, his armor glowing with restrained fury. "Do you think these tricks will save you?" he hissed. "You are insects swarming against the inevitable. Every victory you claim is meaningless. We will erase you one world at a time." Kane stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp as a blade. "You've already lost, Zirith. Not the war, not yet, but the moment you thought we'd roll over, you gave us the advantage. You don't understand humans. We thrive when the odds are impossible." Zirith's eyes burned with contempt. "Then your extinction will be educational." The hologram vanished. The turning point. The battle raged for hours. By the time the last Varixian scout was destroyed, the human fleet was battered but intact. Kane stood beside Reese, both of them staring at the debris field drifting in the void. "They'll send the main fleet next," Reese said. This was just the knife before the spear. Kane nodded slowly. "Then we sharpen the blade. We can't meet them head-on. We need to hit something that matters to them, something they won't see coming." Reese glanced at him. "You have an idea." "Not yet," Kane admitted. "But I know this. Fear works both ways. If we can make them doubt, even for a moment, we shift the balance." A message of fire. Before the fleet returned to Earth orbit, Kane sent a final transmission to the Varixian command. The screen flickered, his face hard and unwavering. "You wanted tribute," he said, voice low but firm. "You'll have it, in fire. Every strike we make, every loss we suffer, will be repaid tenfold. Humanity doesn't yield. We make our enemies remember us, even if it costs everything." He ended the message and turned to Reese. "We have 70 hours left, maybe less. Let's make them count." Reese's expression was grim, but resolute. "Then we plan for the war that's coming." Kane looked out at the stars beyond the viewport, where the wreckage of alien ships floated like dark omens. The fire had started. Now it would spread. The Varixian main fleet arrived like a storm tearing across the void. 70 warships formed a wall of black metal and crimson light, their weapons arrays burning like dying stars. Behind them, the colossal flagship of Overlord Zirith advanced, its shadow eclipsing everything in its path. Aboard the Resolute, the command deck was a tense hive of motion. Every console glowed with tactical readouts. Officers spoke in clipped, urgent tones, their eyes fixed on the approaching threat. Admiral Celeste Reese stood at the center, her presence radiating controlled determination. "They're locking formation," she said. "Once they hit firing range, we'll be swimming in fire." Ambassador Elias Kane, standing beside her, stared at the holographic projection of the alien fleet. His jaw tightened. "Then we make sure they're not aiming at the right targets when they fire. The plan in motion. Kane leaned over the holodeck, highlighting a cluster of asteroid belts between Mars and Jupiter. We've seeded these rocks with explosives. When their lead ships advance, we'll trigger them and create a debris storm. It won't destroy them, but it'll force them to break formation. Reese nodded. Once they're scattered, we hit them with everything we've got. Strike fast, strike hard, and keep moving. Kane's voice lowered. We're not just trying to survive this battle. We're trying to make them believe we're capable of more than they imagined. If Zereth doubts his own power for even a moment, we win ground. First fire. The Vorixians entered range with brutal precision. Their ships moved like predators, each one bristling with energy cannons that glowed red-hot as they charged. Hold! Hold! Reese ordered, her hand raised. The silence on the bridge was suffocating. Kane's heartbeat hammered in his ears. Now! Reese shouted. The asteroid belt erupted in a chain of detonations. Fragments of rock and metal burst outward, pelting the advancing fleet. Several Vorixian ships veered off course, shields flaring as they collided with debris. Target their flanks, Reese commanded. All ships, fire at will. The human fleet unleashed a coordinated volley. Railgun slugs and plasma lances sliced through the dark, striking the distracted enemy vessels. A Vorixian destroyer shuddered, flames ripping through its hull before it vanished in a silent explosion. Directed on two of their ships, an officer called. Kane allowed himself a grim smile. Make them bleed for every inch. Zereth strikes back. The reprieve was short-lived. Zereth's flagship roared to life, a beam of crimson energy tearing across space and slicing through one of Earth's cruisers as if it were paper. The explosion illuminated the void, a brutal reminder of the enemy's power. Reese slammed her fist on the console. Evasive maneuvers. Spread the formation. Don't give them a cluster to target. Another beam carved through the black, missing the Resolute by a fraction. The ship's hull shuddered, alarm screaming. Kane steadied himself. He's angry. Good. That means he's making mistakes. Keep pressing. The decoy gambit. Deploy the decoy drones, Kane ordered. Make them think they're chasing our command ships. Swarms of drones scattered in all directions, broadcasting false energy signatures. Several Vorixian ships peeled off in pursuit, wasting firepower on illusions. Reese watched the map with hawk-like focus. We're buying time, but not much. We need to hit their flagship. Kane's eyes narrowed. A direct strike? If we take out Zereth's command, their fleet loses coordination, she said. Even a few minutes of confusion might turn this fight. Kane exhaled slowly. Then we make it happen. The flagship assault. The Resolute and two support cruisers broke formation, engines burning bright, as they dove straight toward Zereth's colossal vessel. The enemy flagship's defenses lit up instantly, a storm of energy bolts tearing at the void. Shields at 60%, shouted an officer. Push through, Reese commanded, her voice hard as iron. Kane gripped the console, eyes fixed on the glowing silhouette of the enemy ship. We get one shot at this. Make it count. As the Resolute closed in, a barrage of railgun fire struck the flagship's forward shield. The shield rippled but held. Load the EMP warheads, Kane said. Fire on my mark. The deck trembled as the weapons locked into place. The enemy flagship loomed larger, its surface bristling with weapons ready to fire. Now! The EMP warheads launched, streaking across the black before detonating in bursts of blue-white energy. The Vorixian flagship shields flickered, sections collapsing under the sudden surge. We've opened a hole, Reese shouted. All batteries hit that breach. Zereth's rage. The Resolute's guns roared. Metal and energy slammed into the enemy flagship, tearing through its outer layers. For a moment, it seemed as though the impossible was within reach, an ancient empire's pride brought low by human defiance. Then Zereth's face filled the hollow display, his eyes burning with fury. Enough, his voice thundered. You gnats dare wound my vessel? I will tear your planet apart piece by piece. I will... The connection cut as another human volley slammed into his ship, silencing his tirade. Kane smirked. You talk too much, Zereth. The turning of the tide. With the flagship shields weakened, the human fleet rallied. Coordinated strikes hammered the distracted Varixian vessels. A second enemy destroyer fell, its burning wreckage drifting into the asteroid field. "We've forced them back," an officer cried. "They're regrouping." Reese nodded sharply. "We hold the line. Kane, this is our moment." Kane's voice carried across the deck. "Every ship, every gun, focus fire. We don't stop until they retreat or burn." A moment of resolve. As the battle reached its peak, Kane stepped to the viewport. The void was alive with streaks of fire and shattered metal. Somewhere out there, Ziritha's flagship still burned, wounded but not destroyed. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. "This isn't just about survival anymore. This is about proving that humanity belongs in the stars." Reese heard him and gave a grim smile. "Then let's make sure the galaxy remembers tonight. The aftermath of fire." The Varixian fleet finally broke formation, retreating under the weight of unexpected resistance. Their flagship limped into the dark, its once pristine hull scarred by human defiance. The Resolute floated amid debris and silence, its hull battered but intact. Cheers erupted across the deck as the reality sank in. They had survived the impossible. Reese turned to Kane. "We won this round." Kane shook his head. "No, we proved a point. But this war isn't over. Zirith will return, angrier and more dangerous." Reese crossed her arms. "Then we'll be ready. We showed them who we are today." Kane looked out at the stars, his reflection hard and determined. "This is only the beginning. Humanity has spoken, and the galaxy will hear us."